Hey, my name is Ryan Reisert. I'm the founder of a company called Phone Ready Leads. We are a platinum partner with RightBound because our entire service is all about trying to help organizations who are using the phone to get into more live conversations without having to make more dials. On any given lead list, it doesn't matter if it's Zoom Info, Apollo, Cognisim, Seamless, you name it. It could be a web generated lead from your website. That list goes to your sales floor, and that list is going to break down into three outcomes. You're going to have some bad data. No matter what service you use, and even inbound leads, some of that phone data is not going to be worth calling. You take a list and you call it all as if it's created equally. Phone Rate Leads actually provides a scoring system that lets you know which leads in your list are most likely to be reachable, which ones are most likely workable, and it gets rid of most of the bad data. The net result becomes, instead of having to make 20, 30, 50 dials to get somebody on the phone, when you score data and focus on these high propensity phone picker-uppers, you can average a live conversation every 3 to 5 dials. So the reason why we use RightBound is that we've scored through our services over the last 3 years every type of data you can imagine. Seamless, Zoom Info, Apollo, LeadIQ, Slintel, you name it, it's come through our system from our customers. We have also scored inbound leads. And we love RightBound because it gives us the maximum coverage to maximize the reach on any given list. See, on any given list, there's always going to be some gaps. Gaps because only one data vendor has what they have at their disposal. But with RightBound, they've got a unique approach using AI and a marketplace of data to go out and actually get phone numbers from multiple sources, which gives us maximum coverage on the numbers that we want to be scoring in the first place. And ultimately, when we score the data, we're always seeing that RightBound is not only bringing in more contact information than other vendors, but the result of that contact information is quality. It's giving us more reach, and that's what we're after. We want reachable leads. So what I want to do is actually walk you through a couple of examples where we've used a couple other data vendors and RightBound was able to extend reach, and we see this all the time. The first one I'm going to share here is, well, you can just see kind of how our scoring works in general. This is an average list. This is literally today so far. There's been 3,700 records scored, 5,000 numbers scored, and generally it's going to break down to about 5 to 10% of any given list is going to be in this P1 category. This is your high propensity picker-upper. 20 to 40% of a list is going to run into this P2 category. This is a name verified record. Mostly workable. There's still some reachable in here. P3 is going to be in the 30 to 50% range. This is going to be not name verified, but workable data. This is going to be mostly workable. There is still some reachable in here, but there's also some bad data. We cannot verify yet, but if you call it, you'll get to a working number. And then finally, you get needs attention, which is the bad data. This is generally going to be 5 to 20%. These two categories, the higher the number, the better. These two categories, the lower the number, the better. And what we see across the board is that the average dial to connect rate without our scoring is somewhere in the 3 to 6% range. Right now we're sitting around 4%, or said differently, it takes about, let's say, 15 to 50 dials to get somebody on the phone. I wanted to walk you through some examples of where we took some data from other vendors and we compared that against the gap. The gap is what we're after here. So the first one here that I want to walk you through is Apollo versus RightBound. So this is actually the exact same list. It came out of Apollo. We enriched it with Apollo's mobile data. And then finally, it got ran through RightBound, and we looked to see what RightBound returns. So RightBound will generally return up to 4 phone numbers, 2 mobiles, and 2 work direct numbers associated with records if they can find them. And this is the breakdown in this particular list and the performance around why RightBound is so valuable to cover the gaps, right? So if you were to just use RightBound or Apollo without RightBound, you would have only actually gotten to 69% of the same amount of conversations that you have blending these two, right? So Apollo, with their mobile enrichment, this is their premium enrichment, not their free product, so you have to pay for the premium enrichment, would have returned 31 P1s. So that's about 10% versus 15% when you blend the two. Now, that's Apollo alone. RightBound alone, without Apollo, would return 39 P1s. So there was a difference in the list by a total. There's 8 extra P1s, but the gap that they solved for allows us to get here. So Apollo only had 31, RightBound had 39, but there was 14 inside of RightBound that Apollo did not have, and 6 inside of Apollo that RightBound didn't have. So if you look over here, we can look at the total categories. You can see that the gap is widened, meaning that with once we got the picker-uppers out of that first list, Apollo did have a couple numbers that RightBound didn't have. RightBound had a lot more numbers that Apollo didn't have. As you move into the P2 category, RightBound actually had 100% coverage on all the P2s. Apollo had only 74 P2s of the 107. There was one in there that was a specific number that was different than RightBound's, but RightBound also had a P2 scoring. And so because there's multiple numbers here, we don't know which ones are the best. They are both name verified. And so there's not much extra value here. RightBound would get you 100% coverage on the name verified records, meaning it's workable. And that's 31% extra coverage from RightBound in the gap. And then finally, as you get into the bad data here, you can see that Apollo is returning, not bad data, not name verified data. Apollo is returning less of those because, again, there's less numbers. RightBound has more reach there. We don't know. We also have coverage around another subset. So we use seamless.ai for a customer sent us in seamless.ai. We took the P2s and the P3s from that list, ran it through RightBound, got it enriched, and then scored it. And we looked at what percentage of that list after scoring went from a P2 or P3 with RightBound's extra data and moved it into a P1 category, meaning even the needs attentions that were involved in that list, when we enriched the data to see if we could get more out of it, this is the results. These ones came back. We got an additional total 22 more picker-uppers, of which, if we looked at all of those that were P2s and P3s, Seamless only had 14% of these numbers inside of their system before we ran it. By using RightBound, we enhanced the ability to get to 86% more phone picker-uppers in that enrichment process. So this is why we really stand behind RightBound as, in today's market, the best data solution. If you have a sales team that is responsible for using the phone for outbound, you're going to maximize your coverage, fill the gap in your data, and make sure that you're having the best shot on goal when doing outbound calls. If you don't believe us and you want to give this a try for yourself, through RightBound and PRL, it's a really straightforward process. Send us in leads from your favorite source. It could be Apollo, it could be Seamless, it could be Cognizant. It doesn't matter. Send us a list that you have. We'll score it without the enrichment so you can see what it would look like without us. We'll then take that data, run it through our system, see what we can do to fill the gaps, run it again, and show you what incremental reach you can get from data that you may not already have access to. If you'd like to take advantage of that, click below to learn more about that offer. And if you have any other questions around how data scoring, which data sources are right for you, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn at any time, or my number directly is 415-994-0110. Have a great day.